Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Rangers Reviews morning briefing on this Thursday, the day of course, a huge Europa League tie at Ibrox. I'm Joshua Barry, joined by Johnny McFarlane and Derek Clark. There was some confusion, Derek, that you might be off today, but you're here. You're still rooted in the daily updates that is just within your rhythm to get up for the morning briefing, and here you are.
Exactly.
That's
Rangers.
passion, lads. Passion.
Exactly.
Not even on the rota, and he's here.
That's the sort of attitude you need to cover Rangers in this job. So there you go.
Great stuff. Absolutely. Okay, right. Well, obviously a huge game tonight, guys. We've also got some incoming coach chat to have, so plenty to get stuck into. Remember, folks, as well, before we begin, if you're watching on YouTube, to hit the subscribe, the notification bell button, I believe, as well, so that you get the notifications whenever we go live. I know a lot of you are doing that, and thanks a lot for tuning in. Right, let's get into it then, guys. Tonight was going to be a big game regardless. It's now had its significance added to with Giovanni van Bronckhorst's first game in charge. I'll start with you, Derek. Your initial thoughts ahead of this game. I know we were speaking earlier in the week and you were maybe slightly concerned about the quality of Sparta, with this being the first game of a new era. What's your thoughts on the day of the game?
Yeah, excitement ahead of it. I think it's going to be a tough task tonight. He's not had much time to work with the players, of course, but he said yesterday they were sharp in training. They look fresh. Hopefully a new approach is just what the players need. But it's a right baptism of fire tonight. There's no room for errors. That need to learn, I think, by two clear goals. I can see them beating Sparta Prague. I don't think they're any great shakes to get absolutely thumped at the weekend themselves. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach it. The mentality has to be spot on, and he promised changes as well with regards to personnel. It'll be interesting to see how many changes will be made, and if it'll be a change in shape. Also, I think I know he mentions that he predominantly plays a 4-3-3. I'm not too sure if we may see a 4-2-3-1 perhaps tonight. But yeah, excitement really. It's a new era, of course, new dawn, and yeah, itching to find out how it kicks off tonight.
Absolutely. I'll come to you in this one, Johnny. Now, Van Bronckhorst has said there will be changes, but of course he's only had 2 days to work with his team. But he seemed quite insistent in the press conference yesterday that there'll be a different stamp on the team, if you will. He spoke about having a different approach from Hibs to Sparta Prague. What do you envision will be different tonight? How significant do you think those changes will be, given he's only had 2 days of training with his new team?
Well, not massively significant for the reasons you just outlined in your question. I think he will look to freshen things up. There's no doubt about that. I've thought for a long time that Juninho Bacuna is going to likely have a big role to play under Giovanni van Bronckhorst because of his skill set, but also because he'll know him very well from Dutch football, where he was superb. So that will be on his list of players to ensure that they are a big part of things going forward, I think. And I think there's others that could come in. I think we all know about the goalkeeping situation. We know about what's happening at right back. Certainly, despite the situation with Connor Goldson, I think he has to play, given the lack of depth in that position. So that's not really an issue. And there's a big question mark over Alfredo Morelos up top. So we'll see a lot about how Giovanni van Bronckhorst is assessing this squad. Just to move it on slightly from that, Joshua, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I am anyway, and I'd be really interested to hear what the guys have to say in the comments about what I'm about to say, because it might be popular or it might not. But I'm just in a position now where I really, really believe that Europe is almost entirely irrelevant, which you can almost never say about games involving Rangers, because it's such a big club and the demands are that you win every game. But I really believe, given the immensity of qualifying for the Champions League, the immensity of winning this league, and given the situation Giovanni van Bronckhorst has inherited, that we saw manifest itself finally properly, I think, on Sunday. Lots of issues that we've been seeing building up all season. I really think, in a way, this game doesn't have anywhere like the same importance as it would have had if Gerrard had remained in charge. I just think ultimately, going forward now, it's the league battle that counts. That's it. Like, people talk about Rangers Cup record. I'm not even particularly bothered about the Scottish Cup this season. The realpolitik of the situation is £40 million to get to the Champions League, and you do that through the league. And I think Rangers have got a big fight on their hands now. A big fight. And Giovanni van Bronckhorst has got a bigger job than I think probably many of us thought he did have, judging by what we saw on Sunday.
I'll put that to you, Derek. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I sort of go along with what Johnny says. I disagree slightly when he says that if Gerrard was there, it would be more important. I think he lost focus with the Europa League this season himself. I don't think it means as much. I think the prize at the end of this season is the one that Rangers need to make sure that they win. The Europa League, given the carrot of the Champions League was dangled in front of them at the start of the season, the fact they've missed that, it doesn't have the same significance as it had previous years. I don't think it's a disaster if they come third in the group, looking at how they might be able to progress in the Conference League. If you come second in the Europa League, you're playing a team dropping out of the Champions League, so chances of progressing are relatively low, you'd imagine, with some of the calibre of sides that are dropping in there. So, yeah, I'd go along with Johnny. It's not the be-all and end-all tonight. If they go through, if they win tonight, then it's great for, I guess, the coefficient and the money that will be generated from that as well. But it's not the be-all and end-all. The bigger picture here is Giovanni van Bronckhorst changing around a mentality, a worrying mentality, as highlighted by Connor Goldson on Sunday. 2 days isn't enough to get his ideas across and get the ship moving, if you like. So I think if he can get a result tonight, then brilliant. But I'm not expecting him to pull up trees this evening. But I agree with Johnny. Yeah, the Europa League, you're happy to forgo that this year if the main prize is achieved at the end of the season.
I'm going to disagree with you both and say I think it was a huge game and Rangers should win it, but I'll keep it brief. Want to touch on this as well, Johnny? Can we expect a flat back four with Sakala and Kent on the wings hugging the touchline tonight? Obviously, as we've mentioned, we'll see some changes, and there is some changes that Van Bronckhorst could make that probably could be attained within 2 days, whether it be the positions that players pick the ball up in, the shape without the ball. I kind of think it will be more of a 4-1-4-1 without the ball. You remember in the away tie in the Czech Republic, Sparta just had so much success with the kind of strength out wide and the ability to double up, as a lot of European teams have. You'd imagine that Van Bronckhorst will have looked at the games and the tactical nuances that Rangers have struggled to combat and get some quick fixes in there. Maybe that could be more of a flat back four and some more defensive support on the wings tonight. What do you think about that?
I think so. I've got to be honest. I really, really do think so. I think we're going to see a sort of a slight adjustment to the Gerrard system, where you're going to see a more traditional approach from the wingers. And Van Bronckhorst has not come out and said what he's going to do, but he's given a lot of hints, hasn't he? Mm. And it's my concern, Josh, and kind of without ignoring your question, and I just kind of want to throw it back to you and ask, if that's the case, we believe that's the case, but if it is the case, what does that mean for the fullbacks, and what does that mean for the rest of the team? Because I suppose my worry is they've been drilled one way for 3.5 years. Very, very specific style of coaching. They're trying to funnel the balls down the sides of them, so they've got this compact core. But if you're talking about wingers hugging the touchline, how do you marry that together with this idea of the front three cutting out passing lanes and all the kind of movements that they've been so heavily drilled to follow? Can those two things just immediately sort of click and coalesce? I'm not sure they can.
I think I've spoken about I think what you'll try and do is use the foundations of what's there and not completely discount it and add stuff in. So what, in my opinion, what that might look like is that the block might, feature one more player in midfield, but it might just be 5 yards more spacing between the players, so that the distance they have to cover to the opposition fullback isn't quite as significant. It might just be that if you look at think of the triangle rotation, wide triangle on the left, Barisic, Kamara, and Kent. It might just be that there's a reverse in that rotation, so that instead of Barisic going long, Kamara tucking in, and Kent coming short, it kind of reverses. It goes clockwise, if you like, and Kent goes as he did a little bit at the weekend, I think, to retain the width. I think certainly you'll see that on the right, where, as highlighted yesterday on the site, you had Tavernier acting as a width because he had to come into the midfield at points. You had no width on the right. So I think he'll still want to be compact, and he'll use what is in place there as a benefit. But again, it might just be that instead of more of a 4-3-3, it falls to more of a 4-1-4-1, and we've seen a 4-4-2 block, at times under the previous regime as well, when you do need a little bit more support in the wings. And there's it worked so well, the 4-3-3, for so long, but then ultimately it has also been such an underpinning now, because teams can completely set up to bypass it. And if you look at Malmo's pass map from their home win against Rangers in the summer, they have no one in the middle because they put their centre midfielders out wide. You'll remember that's how the first goal happened. So it'll be interesting, Johnny. But I certainly expect that he'll be a little bit more reactive to the opposition. And what I mean by that is that he was speaking about playing the system that he thinks best to beat Sparta. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kent and Sakala in that front line tonight, and also it improves Rangers in transition when Sakala's in the team, because without him, I think they've looked pretty weak, and also not as good counter pressing to win the ball back. So it'll be really interesting. I'm very much looking forward to going along to Ibrox tonight and seeing for myself just what he can implement in the short term. You might see, I think, against Livingston at the weekend, more of let's look at how this squad has beaten Livingston in the past, and let's emulate that and do that, because that's a more particular game, if you will. But we shall see. Let's move on, Derek, to speak about teams. Who do you see playing? You mentioned a 4-2-3-1. What do you think Gio will do in your mind?
Before I do it, I like this little message, Joshua, from Willie Stewart. He says, the picture used in the background has at the front my brother Alex next to him, my dad Archie, and me next. You can only see wee bits of us, right enough. It's great. If you recognise yourself in the background picture, let us know. But yeah, the teams, we've done a predicted lineups, Joshua. I've went for probably quite startling changes on the face of it. No, I've got Nathan Patterson and Calvin Bassey in my team. All depends if Leon Balogun makes the game, of course. I'd imagine he would partner Connor Goldson in the heart of defence. Just hoping that Connor Goldson, there has been some murmurings he may get a bit of a negative reaction on the pitch. I think that would be counterproductive this evening. Yeah. I hope that's not the case. For me, if you play Patterson, it's either dropping Tavernier or changing the system, or moving Tavernier inside and playing a 3, or moving them more in a sort of midfield position. I've left them out altogether. I think it's a big call. I'm not too sure if he will do it, but he has promised changes, and for me, he has to play Nathan Patterson. And James Tavernier's performance at the weekend, I don't think you could have many complaints if he was starting from the bench. Morelos, for me, doesn't start. Not been good enough, I think. I think we'd all agree with that. His work rate poor. He was deplorable on Sunday, and I think Fashion Sakala deserves the opportunity to lead the line tonight. And then it's a case of who does he play behind him. I think he'll play a 3 behind Sakala. I think I've went for a Hadji, Kent, and a Rebo. But it could be anyone. He might, if he wants to go for the out-and-out wingers, he might like to go with Scott Wright on one side, Ryan Kent on the other. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see this team. Like I say, Joshua, I'm intrigued to find out who's going to start in his first match in charge, and if he is going to make some big calls with regards to personnel.
Mm-hmm. Chris Graham getting in touch to say he thinks the support just needs a result tonight, a whole lift, and obviously if there was a positive result tonight, it would certainly lift the mood after Hampden on Sunday. Johnny, I'll come to you on who you think will start tonight. I'm presuming that you wouldn't start Alfredo Morelos. Would it be Fashion Sakala through the middle for you?
Yeah, I think actually just looking at it, if you're going to play two wingers, I think it exposes Rangers' lack of depth in that position, because the team is overloaded with talent that can play as a number 10. But when you're talking about wide players, traditional guys who can hug that touchline and put crosses in, there's not a lot there. There's really just Kent and Wright. So that might be an area that you see some movement on in the winter transfer window, I would suspect. But yeah, I would go for Kent, Wright and Sakala. I think there's a lot of pace and movement in that front three, and a lot of hard work and graft. And that's not what you're getting from Morelos. I think nobody will be surprised that I'm talking about dropping Alfredo Morelos, who's listened to this video for the last few months. Midfield is a more difficult one. I mean, depends on Ryan Jack's fitness, I suppose. Yeah. But I think for me, Lundstrom needs to play in European games because he gives you that real level of physicality. So I would go for probably Jack, Kamara and Lundstrom in that midfield. Really, really solid base. So it's more of a 4-3-3 I'm going for. And then the back picks itself, doesn't it? It's Barisic, Bassey, Goldson and Tavernier. So I suppose some people are saying Nathan Patterson, but I'm not dropping James Tavernier under any circumstances at the moment.
But Barisic, is that you just surmising that Balogun's not going to make the team?
Well, I'm assuming that Balogun's not going to make the team. Obviously, it's different if Balogun's in the team. If Balogun's fit, then he comes in. And then you're probably playing Bassey, aren't you?
Well, John, I've got a curveball for you here. Sorry to interrupt, but Aldo is saying, what about Patterson at left back? This is something that myself and Derek spoke about.
Derek said that to me a few times, and I think that he agrees with that. I'm not a fan of right-footed left backs. I'm just not a fan of it. I'm never going to get on board with it. People will tell me, well, Dennis Irwin, so he was one of the best left backs in British football for a couple of decades. I don't like it in terms of the way you receive the ball. I don't know what you think. You know more about these things than I do, but it's just something I've never really felt comfortable with.
I don't think in this setup, under Gerrard, I don't think it would work obviously necessarily because you have to provide the width. As I've said, I think before, you look at how City do it without.
Joshua, your Wi-Fi is up. I'm going to just cut in and say that your Wi-Fi is absolutely terrible. So
I think he's on dial-up.
I'll that question to Derek instead.
Yeah, I think he's on the old 1995 dial-up. Yeah, I think it's sort of last resort. You've got Calvin Bassey there. I'd have no qualms playing him at left back. It all depends if Leon Balogun is fit enough to start the game. I think there's a lot of supporters, a lot of comments coming in that Bassey at centre back gives them the fear, I can see why. But listen, Rangers are sort of short on numbers at the back at the moment. Of course, we all know why. No Helander for a while. Katic is out on loan. Jack Simpson isn't registered with the squad. I don't think he's going to chuck kids in. So it might just be a case of patching players up and trying to get through the game. But yeah, if needs must, we've seen Patterson come in at that left back slot. Was it the Ross County game he came on as a substitute in that position? But listen, I think he has to play Patterson. I don't know whether he drops Tavernier. For me, I would. He has to play Nathan Patterson. He has to get more game time, and tonight would be the ideal opportunity to do so.
Okay, I'm back. I wasn't on the booster, Johnny. That's why. My apologies. I'll come to you for the final one, Johnny. Reports in the Netherlands that Dave Vos will leave Ajax under-18s to join Rangers. Obviously, Ross Wilson spoke at Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's unveiling press conference about scouting on one more addition to the backroom team, him coming from Europe. If that is the case, that Rangers are to secure the signature of someone from the Ajax academy, it certainly bodes well, doesn't it, Johnny?
Yeah, I spoke on this again a couple of weeks back about the need to replace Michael Beale because the players are used to a certain level of coaching. And certainly it looks like they found a guy who's going to be capable of doing some seriously good coaching. Came through at AZ with Louis van Gaal after coaching the youngsters there, and was promoted through the ranks, ended up at Ajax, where he's been for the last 10 years as part of the academy. We know the kind of players that have come through in that decade.
Yeah,
don't need to tell you, Matthias de Ligt, Donny van de Beek, Frenkie de Jong, amongst many, many others. So you're talking about a guy who's got some pedigree as a coach. Clearly, Van Bronckhorst feels he's someone that can come in and provide that kind of quality to the first team, and that, I think that's a very exciting prospect. Someone from that framework. I noticed there's a lot of fanfare about the manager at Ajax at the moment, and what he's done with the team. But I always think Ajax is one of these clubs where it's the structure that's the star, and only a club as badly run as Manchester United wouldn't realise that. Remember when Ajax got to the semi-final a few years back, when they had all these talented players? How's the manager doing now, the guy that was there at the time? Has he torn up any trees? Has he replicated that success? I don't think so. I think he was actually sacked not long after he moved to another club. I might be wrong. But the point that I'm making anyway is that it's one of these clubs where it's the structure, it's the systems that they have in place that is the absolute star. So getting somebody from within that structure, that youth structure that we know produces great coaches and very, very good teams coming through, they'll have a lot of experience that they can bring to Rangers, where there isn't that same level of structure as there is at Ajax, although that's something Ross Wilson's obviously working towards.
Absolutely. Great. Okay, right. Well, we'll leave it there today. Gents, remember, folks, to all you watching, head over to the Rangers Review website. We've got some great content on there today. As ever, you can subscribe for just $2.99 a month and support top quality journalism covering the club you love. Subscribe as well and hit the notification bell if you're watching on YouTube. We'll be back this evening from Ibrox, and then tomorrow morning with Friday's morning briefing after, hopefully, a positive result in Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's first game. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll speak to you tomorrow.